Hi, everybody. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week. Welcome. Joining me from New York, Alan Furstenberg. Good to see you, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
Filling in for Grumpy Cat tonight, Alan Furstenberg. Um, so anyway, okay. So it's been a pretty interesting week. Not a whole lot of news stories. Alan's actually get on a plane or something, or get up early or whatever. So we're going to try to get through the show quickly, as always. Um, anyway, so our first topic is a continuation or correction, I guess, or a statement about something we talked about, I think, last week, that Chrome and Android were becoming one thing. And we're like, what? And then I heard, but you said this wasn't part of it, that they were simply going to put Chrome under Android in the Alphabet organizational structure. And so Chrome is saying, whoa, Nelly, we're not going anywhere. And actually, the most interesting thing that I see in this whole deal is this Chrome bit. Is that what it's called? The Chrome bit. That is really
Apparently,
cool.
well, I mean, the Chrome bit's been rumored for a while now, so that's not exactly anything really new.
And
But
this is a
when they
copy of the Raspberry Pi dongle, right?
kind of, yeah.
So you have an old
Um,
monitor sitting around, and you plug this thing in. You have a functioning computer, and you can wirelessly use a keyboard and mouse. And so now that old 1080p monitor with with a USB connection is suddenly a functional computer for $89. I think that's amazing.
ladies and gentlemen, I want everyone to notice this, that Dan just referred to a Chrome OS device as, quote, a functional
I
computer,
was using the term computer in the generic sense. It computes.
as opposed to what you used to refer to Chrome OS devices
One
as,
time, one
and
time.
that is, quote, ghetto, close quote.
Well, I refuse to dignify that with a response. That's a classic non-denial denial, right?
Do
That's
I
an
need to pull
outrageous
up the video?
charge, Alan. I
No,
refuse to respond. But go ahead. Tell us, Chrome OS is here to stay. What's the gist of this? And I think the Chrome bit's amazing. For $90, it's awesome.
basically, what Google is saying is that they've committed to Chrome OS. They have 5-year commitments, and they raised that right in the story itself. They talked about how they've committed to companies and schools that Chrome OS will be updated for 5 years and supported. Um, they're saying that it's not going anywhere. Now, you can still read enough into that and say, okay, it's not going anywhere, but maybe it'll be built on top of Android, or maybe Android will run it, or so what? Honestly, what they've said is they're making a major commitment to Chrome OS and Chrome OS devices, and I think they're continuing to show that. Um, not this upcoming week, but the following week is the Chrome Summit. I expect to hear some really interesting things coming out of that. I will be there. So in 2 weeks, on our Friday night show, we'll hopefully have some interesting coverage from that.
Okay, so a question on this Chrome bit thing, on your theme of, what is a computer? Theoretically, couldn't you put if Microsoft or Apple wanted to, couldn't you create a Windows computer on this scale, or a
Sure,
Mac computer that was just a dongle?
sure.
Because why
Go
should you have to buy the new monitor every time you want to
and,
upgrade your computer?
and Microsoft is doing exactly that. Microsoft has been backing Raspberry Pi to create versions of Windows 10 that work on the Raspberry Pi.
This is an exciting time. So that,
Be
but
still by
this,
beating heart.
um, spoken with all the emotion you would expect from Dr. Furstenberg. Okay, so this is cool. So I'm excited. That's definitely a neat
Dan,
accessory. Yes, sir.
please don't refer to me as Dr. Furstenberg. I don't have a doctorate, and a number of people who are doctors are not deserving of the title. So please don't give me the title.
Understood.
I
Understood.
don't wish to be associated with them.
Every time I look at you, I think Ben Carson. All right. So anyway, next up on our topic list is praise for the Nexus 6P Smart Burst feature. I had to change the title because I hate clickbait. He didn't even explain what it was for like 4 paragraphs. So this is kind of like an animated GIF creation feature, for lack of a better term.
It's better than that. I mean, yes, it is, but it's better than that in the sense of that what it does is it just it encourages you to just hold your thumb down on the shutter. If you're using, if you're using big cameras like this, they have a mode where you just hold your finger down on the shutter and it just keeps taking pictures until you release it. Up till now, we didn't have those same sorts of features on cell phones. They've put it into the 6P, and it may actually be in Marshmallow's camera support as well. I don't remember. But what it does is it just encourages you to just take a whole bunch of pictures. Then, in the camera app itself, it pulls out the best shots of those series. So you don't have to go through 100 photos to find the best 10 or 15 shots. It pulls those out for you. And then it also makes an animated GIF out of it.
Okay, so what is the difference between, well, okay, regular video on your computer monitor or your television set is usually, I think, what, 30p, right? 30 frames per second, or is it 60?
30 is standard. You're increasingly moving to 60, yes.
Okay, 60 is better, especially if you're going to do slow motion. If you're going to do a ballerina doing something or a dog going in the air catching a frisbee and you want to slow that down, you'd shoot at 60 or 120. And some of the cameras have that ability. That way you can slow it down to 30, and it's really good quality slow motion. There's no loss of quality. Motion picture, traditional movies would be 24p, I think, that was the lowest they could go to save cost and have usable audio on the film. So
it's not usable audio. It's the way your eye works. Your eye doesn't process much more than about if you have more frames, if you have fewer frames than 24 frames per second, your eye will notice the jump. Okay. More than that, and your eye tends not to.
So this burst feature, what's the difference? I don't know how many frames a second it produces. Let's say it's 8, whatever it is, 6. What's the difference between simply a lower frame rate video and this? Is there a difference, or is that what this is?
Well, the big difference is what it does with it. Instead of the way our video is compressed nowadays is it tries to... Part of what the compression does is deals with bits that have changed between one frame and the next frame. And in some ways, as it does that compression, it says, well, you know, these 2 bits are close enough, so we're just going to treat them the same. Which is why when you see some video at really poor compression, you get these blocky things and bits that don't seem to change and then suddenly change, and it's noticeable. This is something completely different. Each frame is an individual photo, unlike modern digital video where there is no frame. Each frame is calculated based on the previous frame as well.
Okay, I'm going to do a share of my Google Plus profile, because this is an example of an animated GIF that's high quality.
Well, animated GIFs again are something slightly different. And animated GIFs, you can't get better than 10 frames a second if you're lucky.
I don't know. I think mine is. If you look at my profile.
Nope. Most browsers don't show animated GIFs at more than 1 frame per second.
I'm streaming now, so it's
10 per
jumpy.
second.
Okay. But mine looks like video, although right now it's not doing it because I'm uploading the show. I'm streaming it live, so it's affecting my ghetto CPU. But normally it's really smooth. But that's an animated GIF that looks good, but it's a big file. So anyway, this is cool, and he says this is the standout feature of the 6P. Is it what's the Nexus 6P, right? For him, it's a standout feature. For anybody with a kid or a cute pet, this would be a big feature.
I think it's a good feature. Some of the comments we've gotten, Michael Daniels points out that the Galaxy 5 has this with their cameras as well, so this is not exclusive to the Nexus 6P. He also asked if the Chrome bit is currently available. No, they're not. They've been promising it for a while, apparently, but we actually saw pictures again, so maybe we'll actually see it in the next couple of months. Christmas is coming, and like I said, in 2 weeks, in a week and a half, is the Chrome Summit. So who knows?
Okay, and then I'll check. I don't know if those are YouTube comments.
Those were YouTube comments over on Google Plus. Cybernaut points out that it plugs into an HDMI port, not a USB port.
Oh,
And he
okay. Thank you.
and he points out that one cool use for this sort of thing is an accessible pocket computer for the blind. That's an interesting application. I hadn't thought about that one.
Huh. Um, and because
I
because it's cloud based, if you're logged in, um, it has, I guess, some
no,
flash memory, so it would retain like whose dongle. Like, what if I lost my dongle? Would be able to? I mean, there's a password thing, right? How does that work?
yeah, it requires a login. And well, that's even one of the even more brilliant things about Chrome OS. Chrome OS devices for ages have been able to be remotely managed. Long before Android even got the vaguest traces of the feature, Chrome OS devices have been able to be remotely managed. So you've been able to know who logs into which device. You've been able to get their account name. You've been able to lock people out. You've been able to shut down the device. This is an incredible benefit for schools.
Oh my God, you could keep it on your keychain and go class to class, right?
Well, that was what I was thinking, but yes, you could.
Nice dongle,
But
said the
but
kid.
but but Dan, why would you? Why would you need to do that?
Because, well, is there anything? I mean, are they all identical? Is there any stuff stored on that, or is it just
No.
so it wouldn't matter if you stole it? You'd have no advantage, except you'd have
Right,
my
exactly.
$90 thing. But there's no local flash storage on the device, or I
I
mean,
mean, there is,
writable.
there is, but there's not much. It's used basically for temporary files.
So it's like if you had my keyboard. I mean, you're not going to get anything from that except my keyboard.
Well, most people wouldn't, right?
Okay. Sheila's with us. Sheila, welcome.
Sheila's now gone away since she got
Okay.
bored that you didn't acknowledge her.
I missed her. I have to look there to see that. Um, Continuing my anti-Sheila crusade. I'm just kidding. Okay, so next up is um, okay, so this is you. I kind of looked at this. It was boring to me, frankly, because um, my staff is hopeless. So there's no point in me learning HR techniques. But we have a small staff. But anyway, so Google is making. I guess they're creating sort of a not a social network, but a community for hiring professionals or something like that, human resources, and how to um, a place to share stories and techniques. I'm curious why would they do this? It seems to hopefully get others to share because they're sharing a lot of their internal practices, things like.
Well, A, to get others to share, but also to, make a statement that the competitive advantage isn't necessarily in this information here. Some of this information is fairly common and standard stuff, which, lawyers may charge you a few, $1,000 for. Google's willing to give it away because they believe in it. So when they want to, when they say things like, hey, we have a diversity program, here's all of our material for our diversity program. It opens up, it makes some things more transparent that don't need to be secret, that Google doesn't want to be secret.
And also, they are admittedly there is a gap in where they would like to be and where they are in terms of hiring females and
Sure.
minorities. And so, by
When they
showing
say,
this, might gets a really bright Stanford graduate to consider working there, whereas before they might have been put off by the white sausage factory aspect.
well, not just that also, but it might get the white Stanford, graduate to go to them and say, hey, here's how you can improve your diversity program. So it basically open sources some of their training material, and that's at the core of what a lot in Silicon Valley.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, that's cool, and it's kind of a chicken and egg. I know some women on this show have said that they would be reluctant to work for a company like that because they wouldn't feel that there were enough people like them to have the camaraderie that they might find in other things, in other fields of work. Sheila, how are you? Okay, she's busy.
I'm good.
Oh, awesome. You've got a new contraption on your head. What is that?
It's headphones.
Are they Beats, or they look kind of fancy?
They are.
Making a statement. They are Beats?
I'm not sure.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, good to have you with us. Any thoughts on
I think Anything?
Anything? What do you think about that Chrome bit? It's going to come out in a few weeks. And thank you, Cy, for pointing out my error. It plugs. If you have any display that has an HDMI input, you plug this $90 dongle in, and you've got a Chrome computer. You wirelessly connect the keyboard and a mouse, and you just put it into that old monitor sitting in your closet you don't use because you got rid of that computer. If it has HDMI, you could have for $90. You've got like a Chromebook type computer. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That would work.
So, okay. All right. So next is sharing Google Drive files is easier, according to Google. And this has been an issue. I have folks, I would try to send them a copy of the paper or a proof of an ad or something, and if they didn't have an account, they may or may not be able to look at it, and it was kludgy. People said Dropbox was easier. In some ways it is. But I'm in the Google ecosystem, so I like Drive. So what they did was, I guess, on mobile, you don't have to be logged in. If you email someone a link to, hey, check out this PDF or whatever it is on Drive, now on iOS and Android, they can check it more easily, and they don't have to be logged in. Of course, on Android, I guess most people will be logged in, but on iOS, that may not be the case. They might not even have a Google password.
Well, they may not be logged into that account either, the account that you sent it to either. So
Gotcha.
I think, it's not entirely clear what this does to me, but that's mostly because I've not had the problem before. But it sounds like they're getting, we've seen this in photos. We saw this in a number of other places, getting to the point where they say, look, the link is the password. If you've got the link, you've got access, and you can revoke that link in other ways. Now, I don't know that that's what they've done, but that seems to be the trend that we're seeing in Google these days.
And one thing, just a reminder from a lesson I learned, if you give someone access and they're not acting in good faith and they delete something, it's really deleted. It's not like Google Docs where you can revert to a previous version. Someone can do some nasty stuff to your...
Well, if they really, really, if
If
they
they're
need to go out of their
malicious.
way to delete something.
Yeah. If they're malicious.
But even against most, but not all malicious attacks, you can, there is some protection.
Well, I wish I had known, because I feel I have not...
Well, what he did to you, there wasn't much protection against. If you drag it to the trash and then delete the trash, there's not much you can do against that.
Yeah. Okay, so, and I can see, because if you have terabytes of data, you can't just give everyone every possible version back like you can with a doc. That's just, they couldn't do it at this price point. So that's good. They're good to see them making strives to make their product better. It's becoming
And
more...
speaking of being at this price point, next topic.
Microsoft kills unlimited OneDrive storage. This is really a funny... they said that people... I'm going to show you. Here's the article on the Wall Street Journal. Before, I had a paywall. Anytime, if you hit a Wall Street Journal paywall, like if you can't get to this story, all you do, you'll get to this beginning, then it'll say log in. Just highlight this, and then search for the title in Google. And then when you see it listed, click on it from Google, and it'll be unlocked, and you can go right to it. So that's how you bypass their paywall. All right, Microsoft kills unlimited OneDrive storage. And it's just funny. They had unlimited storage, and they said that it was being abused. People were moving, a small number of users backed up numerous PCs and stored entire movie collections on DVR recordings. In some instances, this exceeded 75 terabytes per user, or 14,000 times the average. And I love this line. Instead of focusing on extreme backup scenarios, so there's a new... I could see a reality to extreme backer uppers. Anyway, so they're switching to a tier. It's a little pricier, but not
Well, they had a
significantly.
tiered system before. That it's not new. There was a tiered system in place before.
Quite a tier, unlimited.
Well, so there was an ultimate tier that they've now gotten rid of, and they raised the price on some of their lower tiers.
Google's still cheapest, I think, right? I just looked today. I don't know what they're... okay, you get 15 gigs for free with Google. With Amazon, they have unlimited photo storage It's $12 a year, or if you're a Prime member, as I don't even use that. Do they store like? But it's not videos; it's just photos, right?
Yes, I believe so.
The problem is when they make these changes. What about someone like if Flickr changed, and they did, but they kept us legacy folks in because I have unlimited photos on. If I had to put them all down and put them somewhere else, my God, it would be like a year-long project. Can you imagine if wherever you store your photos, all of a sudden you couldn't anymore? That's the fear I have. But the advantage is you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and have your own storage system and drives everywhere, and drop them off at your dad's house, a copy, and a pain in the ass. But then if you're relying on these cloud services, you're at their mercy. So what do you think about this, Al? This seems like a logical step.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Did people at Microsoft really think that nobody would back up their computer to OneDrive if offered unlimited storage? Really? Did nobody do the math? Are they incapable of doing math there? It boggles my mind that nobody thought that they might do something like this. And then, to add insult to injury, originally their free tier was 15 gig. So if you bought a Windows 10 computer, you got 15 gig of data, of storage. Great. They just lowered that to 5 gig. Okay, that is insulting to people who actually bought into this product, thinking that they had a free tier, thinking they had a level that was usable, and then being told, no, ha ha. That's just wrong. In fact, I will go out and say that it is wrong for any system that in good faith releases a product that has certain features and they take those features away or scale them back. Any company that does something like that deserves to be publicly humiliated and shamed.
As only we can.
As only we can.
This reminds me when I had an ISP. I ran it at Randolph-Macon Academy. It's called RMA Online. We started in about 93, I guess, 94. And we had a guy in Winchester who helped us set it up. And it was dial-up only. And I think you got like 150 hours a month or something you could use the internet. I forget what the number was. But it was this crazy high number. But the theory was you got to have some limit so that people turn it off when they're done. Otherwise, they'll go crazy. And this is before Netflix or anything like that. It was just logging into Drudge Report, quality websites back then. You're muted.
I know. 150 hours a month is, 5 hours a day. That's not inconsequential.
I forget what it was. It may have been more, 2-4. I don't remember.
No. That's perfectly reasonable amount.
And
that's why when AOL started advertising 1,000 hours a month, it was ridiculous because nobody ever could get to that point.
But we actually never enforced it. I don't think we ever enforced it once. We just told people that's the limit. But there was a psychological thing. It made you, when you were done, you'd close the window, right? You wouldn't just let something run ad nauseum. Although most of the time when you're actually on the web, you're not consuming anything. It's just sitting there, although not so much anymore as they're doing pop-ups and different ad things, constantly changing. So similar thing. But yeah, it's tough to, when I had a restaurant, the pizza guy said, I think he said it's harder to raise. He said it's better to start out with a certain price. You can lower it, but it's tough to raise them. People get pissed off when you raise the price.
People do. And, quite honestly, it's bad business. And it's a sign that you didn't know what the hell you were doing. And I think that describes Microsoft fairly well.
Especially in an ecosystem where these sorts of services are offering more at less cost over,
Right, especially in highly competitive ecosystems where they're not even currently the best now.
Nor are they the best priced because Google's less expensive.
Well, I meant overall best.
And they were late they were late to price it. Knowing what Google charged, they opted to give you for $2 a month 50 gigs when Google gives you 100. So, but I don't know. I mean, they have the as the late Senator Fred Thompson said in the one movie he talked about the bean counters. They have the bean counters that would have made that calculation. Okay, so next up is Periscope. This is just interesting. A couple things about live streaming. One is Periscope. Now I guess it's going to be on is it the Apple TV or something?
Yes, Apple TV.
I don't know. I mean, when I looked at Periscope one time, but I wouldn't like go there and browse. I think just to see because they had a map or something. I forget. And I was like, okay. And it was like, there's a cat in Estonia. It looks remarkably like a cat in the U.S. It just, is someone eating lunch, or I mean, just nothing of interest to me. But if there's somebody who I follow on Twitter and it says they're broadcasting live on Twitter, I might be interested because that's someone I'm interested in, which is why I'm following them. But to use it as a destination, like sitting down to YouTube, it wouldn't appeal to me. What do you think?
I think having Apple TV support is good in the sense that it means that, it's taking the fact that you're doing this broadcasting seriously. That you're offering these broadcasting tools in a serious fashion, unlike, certain other broadcast, streaming media broadcasters these days, who clearly are not taking their own product seriously.
Which we'll be discussing in a future.
But Dan, you'll remember 3 years ago or so, you were the one who was talking about putting a camera on top of your flat screen TV and doing Hangouts with it. That wasn't me. I agreed with you. But it was you that came up with that idea. And here's Periscope implementing it.
Yeah. Sheila,
See, Dan,
go ahead.
See, Dan, I can even agree with you and show you how you're wrong.
Are you talking about the mock-up TV I did?
Yeah.
That's a blast from the past.
Sheila, what do you think of this?
About Periscope,
Yeah, have
Sure.
you ever used it or you watch it or anything?
I used it once, but I didn't do any streaming. I just watched it I watched a couple of them, but
Are you a big Twitter user?
no. I mean, I'm on Twitter, but I'm not a huge user. No. So I don't like the limited 120 character. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, some people like it. I use it. I post, but I post the same stuff everywhere. And I also will post other things just on Twitter, and I'll post some things just on Facebook, and some things just on Google Plus. And so, but most of my stuff is, if it's news, I'll push it out on all three platforms. And then, when I go to Twitter, I'm mainly reading news from other people. I check that. That's my primary source for breaking news. I like it a lot. So another entry into the game is Facebook, which if you have access to the Mentions app, you can stream live video. And I link to this in the thing. I'm not going to play it because it's got audio of a singer, and God knows what YouTube Live would do if I played it. But it's Robert Scoble at a winery or a vineyard, and a vineyard is different from winery, believe it or not. A vineyard is where they grow the grapes. A winery is where they make the wine. And they can be in the same location, but not necessarily. So it was a singer, but he was using an iPhone 6s Plus, and the quality was very good for a phone. It wasn't as good as if you had recorded it and posted on YouTube later, but for standing in the middle of a vineyard, the audio and the quality it was great. It was like less quality, but still damn good. You now you have a satellite television truck in your pocket, and while other services like there's YouTube Live, but you can't do that from your phone. There's Hangouts on Air rather. There's Periscope and Meerkat, which was before them. Scoble said, but Facebook is the main thing. I think in the metrics there are 1.5 billion users, and they said like 67% of them check at least daily. So that's a huge, almost 1 billion uniques a day is unheard of. It's amazing. I don't know what Google's is. Maybe Google's is the same. I have no idea. Not Google Plus, but Google.com. So the quality's better on Facebook. The audio and the video quality are better. Also, it records it afterward. Just like YouTube Live, this will become a watchable video after we're live, and that's how most people watch it. 90% watch it after we're done, sometimes a bigger percentage. I see Diana Ridley here. Here's an example. She's live on Periscope right now. I just got a tweet there, halftime, part 2 or whatever. I guess she's at a game. So, but Scoble said that he gets, I think in this video he addresses it, he says he gets 10 times the engagement using Facebook's live video than he would with Periscope. So everyone's getting in this game. Some are doing better than others. Any thoughts on?
Well, almost everyone's getting in this game.
Some are getting out of the game.
Some of them, literally think it's a game.
Yeah. So, not only is
I'm
Alan a
just-
coder, but sometimes he speaks in code. Go ahead, Sheila.
Just looking at that Facebook mention thing, that's only on iPhone. I mean, yeah, it's just, you can't get that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. You have to have, it's only good if you're running a page. You can't do it via just a regular personal profile. You have to use a page.
I use it with a personal profile.
Really?
Yeah.
Says to sign up for Facebook mentions. If you're an admin of a verified page, you can request access to mentions directly at Facebook mentions. If
Yeah,
you're
you
a
can-
public figure, you can download the iPhone app to request access. But I don't see anything for Android.
I think I had the same question, but they did. I have a verified profile, not a page, and
Yeah.
it works fine. So I did it. I haven't done a singer at a vineyard, but I did. I made spaghetti. I made Martha Stewart's one-pot spaghetti or linguine, and I did it just to test it, and it was quite good. It's strange. The video's square. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe that's
Instagram Square, probably.
maybe it's a way to reduce the upload bandwidth, right? By cutting out
Maybe, yeah.
a third or more of the thing, cropping it. So maybe it doesn't matter if you go vertical or landscape. There isn't a such thing. It's square. So it may force you. I can't remember. I haven't done it for a while. But any thoughts on this, Alan, other than
If you'd like, I'm certainly willing to be less cryptic about my statement.
perhaps it's premature?
No.
Okay.
There's nothing premature about it. I think I've said it before. The fact that YouTube seems to be focusing on gamers instead of providing live streaming like everyone else is certainly interesting. But I haven't heard anything about it in weeks. Nobody, I'm sure the gamers are using it, but nobody else is. And okay, fine. Good for the gamers. Great to see you guys get nice tools. Always encourage that. But I think YouTube has missed the boat on this one.
Mike Downs, our mutual friend in the UK, said he was talking about it. He said it's absolutely a gorgeous interface. I don't know if it's youtube.gaming or youtube.com/gaming. I don't know. I don't want to pull it up on the screen because I don't get in trouble. But he said the interface is far superior to YouTube. It's not all that white. It's just like you're in a movie theater, and it takes advantage of the natural beauty that's in some of these modern computer games. They've come a long way, from the Castle Wolfenstein days. Now you can rip someone's head off, and it looks like you're ripping someone's head off. So there. I was thinking it'd be neat. My dad gave me a UAV and a drone, a quadcopter, and we went to a yard with the kid, and within 5 minutes it was destroyed. Literally 4 minutes maybe. And so but you can buy parts for it. It comes with a bunch of spare parts. But I was thinking how much fun it would be, Alan, if you could have like a drone battle with like armed drones. And like a real life video game, but like with actual stuff and shooting or slashing the other drone or something. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe I'm going to get on some government lists now. All right, so okay. Another thing, this was interesting, and it probably would apply to other social networks as well. And earlier in our discussion, about Twitter with Sheila, I noted that much of my activity on Twitter is consuming rather than posting. Now, I post
Right.
more than most people do, but most people don't post so much. So here's this article, and I'll just show you. Here's an example where it says to read the full story, subscribe or log in. Just highlight this title, Facebook prods users to share a bit more and do a search for it. And then because they can't let the Google bot see more than they let the regular person. If you pull it up from Google search, you can get right to that full article and bypass that paywall. So anyway, I'll stop screen sharing now because I don't want to show you how to bypass a paywall and then display their content for free on the web, on a video. So some of these numbers are interesting. So here they did the thing, 65% of Facebook's 1.5 billion monthly users visited the site daily as of June. And then they talk about how many posts, and it's down. It used to be, they said someone would post something daily. It was 14% in 2010. Then it went down to, I think, 10%. And the number of people who posted every few weeks went from like 60 to the 40s. So now what they're trying to do is suggest things like it's Veterans Day and they had a U.S. flag up or whatever. And any thoughts? Or a guy in London, the last part here, in August, Marco Fiore, 27, a public relations account director in London, visits Facebook several times a day, but only posts about once a week. He said opening Facebook's mobile app is more of a reflex than a conscious decision. In August, Facebook urged him and others to join the conversation about the tube strike, that's the London Underground Railroad, in London. Mr. Fiore, who has been on Facebook for almost a decade, said it was the first time he'd seen such a prompt from the social network. Honestly, it didn't work, he said. The topic wasn't really one I'd share thoughts about. He did, however, post about the tube strike on Twitter. So that's interesting, how people behave differently and view these things in a different context. And I do. There are some things that I would put on Facebook I wouldn't put on Plus or vice versa. And Twitter, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, analyzed that. But what do you see this? One thing that this article doesn't address, Alan, is this people are posting less or more people are joining Facebook, and of the new people joining, they're less inclined to post people? Is that a fair question?
I think it's an interesting question. I don't know the answers, obviously. Anecdotally, I would say I see people posting less. I think more and more people are realizing it's not, as great to dump everything on Facebook as it was.
Why is that?
Because they see all of the crap on it, because they're not willing to, say everything there is about their lives, and people aren't interested in it.
Some of the stuff I see less of, like you'd see idiot teenagers, if you're going to try to take my man, you can just go on or something, just obviously they've had some spat with someone and they just dump it right on Facebook. Like, I care, and but I see less of that now. And I'm not sure if it's the algorithm filtering that at me less or if it's really happening less. Because Facebook's good at servicing things that you'll engage with. If you actually look, I think you can still look at the time feed, right? Everything that is happening in order of newest first. It's a very different experience than what they suggest to you. I think they're the best at that. Google Plus is not good at that, in my opinion. But you are a victim of who you circle in Google Plus or who you friend or follow on Facebook. So a lot of it is your decisions early on, because people tend to not go back and clean those things up later. I haven't. Also, I'm reluctant to uncircle or unfollow somebody because they might notice and get offended at me, and I'll have someone standing outside glaring at me through my window. So, okay. So, any thoughts on this, Sheila, about people? Do you see people sharing less, or have you noticed anything like that on Facebook?
On Facebook?
Yeah.
No, my stream is full of stuff. It's full of stuff, but I miss a whole lot of stuff. Put it that way.
All right, so next is the this, honest to God, I didn't I have a typo in there. I hate typos. I'm an editor. I should never have a typo. Okay, so the Wild Western Front, I made this title up. The Wild West Frontier, that is the USB Type-C ecosystem. So this guy, he loves USB Type-C, which Alan is going to tell me what that is in a moment. And so what he does is he's frustrated at some of the low quality gear out there, cables and adapters, whatever. And so he's calling them out, and he's got a profile with a bunch of reviews of various USB Type-C cables or connectors, and he's doing a good job and saying, like, this is garbage, this one's really good, because he wants this to take off. So tell me, what is USB Type-C? What's special about it? And you highlighted this story, so what are your thoughts on it, Alan? I'll be right back.
Sure. USB Type. So hopefully Dan will hear me while he's in the bathroom peeing. But USB Type-C is the latest version of USB. It's kind of like the USB Micro that we're very familiar with plugging our phones into. There are a couple of big differences over USB Micro. The first is that you can put it in either direction. So there is no such thing as plugging it in upside down. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. Second is that, and I'll admit I have only a tenuous understanding, so somebody like Sai is going to message me and say where I'm wrong. But basically, as part of the protocol for it, it negotiates with the power adapter how much power it needs or can take or whatever. This is a big change over USB Micro, where there kind of was this convention that, if this line is hot, then it can take this many volts. If this line is hot, then it takes this many. It was always something of a trick. It's standardized in USB-C. So this means that you can power anything from a phone to a Pixel with USB-C. It's the exact same adapter everywhere. Whereas before we would need special laptop adapters. That's gone. Everything is using USB-C. The latest MacBook Air is using USB-C. The latest Nexus devices are all using USB-C. Just about anybody with a shred of intelligence is switching to USB-C at this point.
Is this something like if you have a legacy computer, you'd be able to get a card in it with these ports if you didn't have them previous?
I would assume that this has nothing to do with that. This is about power. I would assume that you will at some point see USB-C to, old-fashioned power adapters, but I wouldn't count on that too much.
This guy it's his cause,
Well, it's his cause for a reason. He's on the Pixel team. So
Right.
It was his team that brought the first computer with USB to market.
Wonder why he's reviewing them on Amazon instead of Google Shopping.
Well, because nobody uses Google Shopping, and everyone uses it because Google Shopping actually sells good USB cables, while Amazon apparently has some people who are selling shoddy USB cables, which don't meet the specification, and which could do things like, catch fire.
That's a no-no. That's a bad thing. So I like the Amazon Basics brand.
Electronics catching fire is generally frowned upon.
They're frightening videos. And for the record, I was not peeing. I was getting more Kool-Aid. Like Alan, I literally drink my own Kool-Aid. So, but peeing will come in a few minutes. Once that dam bursts, it's all she wrote. Okay, so
That's what happens after he drinks the Kool-Aid.
I also think it's unfair that Sai, when you're wrong, he privately messages you, but he publicly posts when I'm wrong.
He doesn't privately message me. He says it
I'm trolling myself. I'm picking on Sai. Good-natured ribbing. Okay, so all right. So kudos to this guy whose name escapes me for his assault on the cheap Type-C, trying to improve that ecosystem. Okay, next, let's not say ecosystem again in the show. We've overused that. It's like when something's going on and CNN keeps saying this is fluid. Amazon opens up a physical bookstore in Seattle's University Village. I assume that's an area where there's lots of universities nearby. I'm sure Oleg.
Probably also lots of bookstores.
Yeah. So, okay. So this is cool. Now we talked about just this. We debated just this thing, but we talked about a general Amazon store. They surprised me when they went to physical books, as opposed to other things that they sell. Stink bug?
No, network freeze.
Okay.
Um,
So this is very interesting, and they're doing it right. It's not just the Amazon name on a Barnes and Noble, right? It's they're using their stuff. Did you look at this in detail yet, or
I've only looked at it a little bit. I was particularly amused by the sign that said prices in store are the same as online.
yeah?
I
And
found that really funny
oh, because
because Amazon is the master of having variable online pricing.
oh yeah, like my pizza oven. Sometimes it's 450, sometimes it's 299. You just got to,
You you log into Amazon.com with your account versus using incognito mode, and you'll get two different prices. Are the masters at this.
and also if there's a local Best Buy and you got to have something that day, like a webcam breaks and you need it or cable, they will match Amazon. If it's a small price difference, the cashier will do it. The manager will have to come over if it's a $20 difference on a $60 item, but they'll straight up, and I just pull it up on my phone. I've even gone to Best Buy and show them their own website, and they gave me a thing. And Walmart does that too. Now, okay, so what I like about this here, and I'm gonna scroll through this article here. They have the rate. They're taking advantage of the ratings from the website. I don't know why other stores. I don't know why you can't go into Kohl's or Walmart and find out, like, is this product a 5-star item or a 3? You got to pull it up on their app. It's stupid. Over here it says most popular books released this week, top pre-orders from Amazon.com, and they're there. So they're using their data. They also know what will sell in Seattle versus Oklahoma, right? And they have some physically printed reviews right here with the stars. It's just neat. There's everything's 4 stars and above, and I just think that it makes total sense. And if you think about it, Alan, the whole thing is they're online, so they save the money of the brick and mortar store in theory, right? But then they have to pay to ship it to you. And a lot of people, they get $100 a year, but I don't know how profitable Prime is. I think it's more like it makes you more likely to purchase from Amazon, since you're paying for that free shipping anyway, than order from somewhere else, and you already have an account set up, so it's just one click and you're done. But there's also a cost involved. Here, the store, they've got to lease, or they've purchased a building. They probably leased it, and they got to have staff. But everyone drives to the store themselves. They don't have to ship the book to your house, right? So there's a savings there. They just have to ship it from the warehouse to the store. What are your thoughts on that, Alan? Could this potentially, they could make more money per book than from the online site if you really look at it that way? Or is this an experiment gone awry, or that will?
Beats me.
Okay. Well, obviously, Alan is strongly opinionated on this story. Any thoughts on this, Sheila, on the Amazon store, Amazon books?
No,
Okay.
I don't buy much books on Amazon.
I'm surprised that they went with a bookstore versus a general merchandise store.
Hmm.
So, okay, next is Star Trek. A new series is going to premiere in 2017. They have a Jean-Luc Picard on the story, so I don't think we know much about the cast or the plot. But I think they're going to broadcast the first one maybe, and then it's going to be only if you have CBS All Access, which I looked at. But how many? I have HBO Now, I have Amazon Prime Video, I have Netflix. I don't have Hulu or Hulu Plus, and I don't have CBS. One thing is CBS has commercials. I'm not going to pay them and then watch commercials. And usually it's something I want to watch like the day after it airs. I missed it, and so that's on for free anyway. But what do you think about this strategy? This is clearly the whale. I mean, this is like a Orange is the New Black for Netflix to try to get people to watch, or when Sirius or XM got Howard Stern, it was their whale to get new subscribers. And I could see someone, I would literally, if this series was good, I would literally subscribe to the service just to watch this. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, but the series won't be good.
The last one sucked, but the other ones were good.
Yeah,
Janeway
but
and the black dude.
No, Voyager was horrible.
I loved Voyager.
No, you love Seven of Nine.
Oh my God, the naughty things that come to mind.
Thank
She
you.
was great.
No, the series was terrible.
I love the
Enterprise.
series.
No, you love one character.
No,
The
I like.
series was terrible.
Did you like Deep Space Nine?
No.
I loved Deep Space Nine. I loved Odo and the Changelings and
Do
Quark.
you really want to spend an hour with discussing with me why you're wrong?
You know, but I'm the guy who liked all the Star Trek movies.
All of them, including the 2 recent ones?
Yeah, better than not having a Star Trek movie. I'm a diehard
You
fan.
like the reboots?
Yeah,
Dan, I really don't know if I can be on your show anymore.
a shitty Star Trek movie is better than no Star Trek movie.
No. Static is better than those 2 things.
So, make it so, number one.
Anyway, no, Picard was great.
Oh yeah.
Next
Yes,
Generation
yes.
Next Generation was an awesome show.
Yes, it was.
Okay, the reboots totally don't. I mean, the reboots are basically taking the name of a bunch of characters, and then having them do random shit in space. They have absolutely no relationship to the premises, to the concepts, to the vision, and to the design of the original series. Series plural. Okay, and the problem with this thing that they're offering for 2017 is that it's being created by the same idiot that created those rebooted movies.
Enterprise, the series, I thought was terrible, but some of the
Enterprise-
Voyager stuff was great. Like, remember when they were trapped over a planet, and or they were hovering over a planet, studying it for whatever reason.
Dan, I have
Yeah.
only 3 words, maybe it's 2 words, that perfectly summarize why Voyager sucked shit.
Okay.
Slugs having sex.
That's 3.
Well, they had the Star Trek original one had the little furry things that multiplied.
Tribbles are brilliant. Having Janeway turn into a slug, having sex just because they went faster than Warp 10? Come on.
Yeah.
Really, Dan, you do not mess with me when we talk about Star Trek, because I will decimate you.
You know, and slugs, you just put salt on it, they'll dissolve.
All right, so let's look at
Anyway,
some comments.
we had a comment on this as soon as we had this comment on YouTube from Michael Daniels. He wanted to remind us that you should check out Star Trek Continues on YouTube. Really, really well done. This is a fan fiction created version of
Ooh.
Star Trek, the original series. It's as its name suggests, it's a continuation of those voyages, using original characters but new actors for those characters. Totally fan produced, totally fan done, really, really high quality. Blows the hell out of the shit that J.J. Abrams gave us on the big screen.
So you're not? Isn't he doing the new Star Wars movie?
Yes, he is.
Are you excited or pessimistic?
I am cautiously optimistic.
I
He
hope
actually
it's good.
here's the reason why Star Wars under J.J. Abrams may be better than Star Trek under J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams has said that he likes Star Wars.
He also did Lost, which was fantastic, and not just because of Kate. There were other reasons I liked it. Lost.
Didn't see that one, so I couldn't comment.
Oh my gosh.
I got lost watching Lost.
Okay, so Mark Barra says he sees an increase in reshares on Facebook. I wonder if there's. They were talking about the actual posting of content, like you originate a post. I wonder, Mark, if you've seen any change in that behavior. Speaking of game, how about the NFL being live streamed on Yahoo? That was interesting. It really did not come close to the numbers you would get on conventional broadcast television, but it was a big event for them. And also they force fed it. So if you went to any of their properties, it would start automatically playing on Yahoo News, Yahoo.com, etc. And so some of those views were short-lived, and people who weren't looking for that and just went there for news or something. Michael Daniel says he does. I do Hangouts for my TV with a webcam and Wi-Fi keyboard and Wi-Fi mouse and use Chromecast. That's cool. And Michael Daniels, I agree with you, Alan. That is BS. If you give someone something, stick to it. So there we go. All right, next is this is just I don't know what you guys think, if anything. The Keystone XL pipeline. It was denied today, and I don't know if the new Prime Minister of Canada, who is liberal, the previous one was conservative, is even wanted it.
He was opposed to it.
Okay, so it was kind of let's just kill it.
Well,
But-
here's the thing. He came out as opposed to it. Then the group that was doing the Keystone Pipeline yesterday or 2 days ago formally requested that the review be put on hold because they saw the writing on the wall, and and they were having trouble negotiating with one of the states for the route. And then today, the State Department officially recommended to the president, and the president officially adopted the recommendation that it be rejected.
The timing's interesting. Here's the map for folks. They already have the red is the current pipeline. Okay, it goes from just near Alberta to or Hardisty in Alberta, and then it goes down to Port Arthur in Texas, I guess. And the dotted line here is the new pipeline that was proposed, the Keystone XL. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is, it's the most demagogued issue I've ever seen, with so much dishonesty on both sides. The bottom line is, and I think they should have built the damn thing, but it's not that big a deal, because the left was saying, like, oh, this is going to contribute to global warming. They're going to do that's stupid. It's they're going to make the oil anyway, and they're going to have to transport it on rail or in trucks or whatever instead of the pipeline. So it's actually going to consume more energy moving it from point A to point B than sticking it in a pipe.
That's true. Well, here's the thing. That's true, but that also assumes that it's economical to get it out.
Correct.
And increasingly, the prices of oil have been declining, so it's questionable about whether it's economic to develop the field in the first place.
Okay, and then they said, oh, it's the worst kind of oil. It's the dirtiest oil in the world. It's no dirtier than Venezuela. They have tar sands oil. It's the same thing. And all your Citgo gas stations, that's what it is. It's the Venezuelan oil company. And then they said the right was like, this is an assault on the U.S. economy. It's tens of thousands of jobs or for 6 months to build the thing, or a year or whatever. And then I think it's like a dozen guys, to run it. So, oh no, we're going to lose a dozen jobs. Oh my God. So I just saw both sides were so full of crap on this issue. I personally say, why not build it? But it's not like life and death. It's just not that big a deal.
Well, but here's the problem, though, Dan. In some cases, it does end up being life and death. We were talking, certainly we're talking about the fact that it was running over several aquifers. And, we have pipeline, our pipelines in general are very good. We have, when they are maintained and maintained well, they, have very few problems. But when they do have problems, they tend to be catastrophic problems. And running it over water aquifers is probably not a very good idea.
Okay, not a very good idea. Hasn't pipe technology improved any? So if all of a sudden there is a loss of pressure in some segment of the pipe, which would obviously be from a breach, that it would stop somehow?
Nope.
That there would be a seal? They can't invent that?
No.
That seems like any moron
I'm sure they
do that.
could, but why would they invest money in that?
They're to get it approved. I don't even know why they didn't approve it. I mean, I don't know what the official reason was. We know why for political reasons, they didn't approve it. But some of this stuff, because the other ways they can move the oil, and like you said, this is a cheaper way to move the oil, so they may not develop the field if they can't do it this way. Although they still have a pipe from point A to point B. It's just this was a quicker route, I guess. I'm not sure what purpose this one served. I guess more capacity. So, Alan, your point about, they can do it by rail or by ship, but maybe that's cost prohibitive, so they're not going to develop the oil, at least not now, until the prices go back up. And there's no sign that they're going to go back up anytime soon. And boy, am I loving this $1.88 gas. But I just I know, like I think it was in Lynchburg, they had a train, and a fire started, right? And this is so talk about crazy government rules. The train's on a bridge, a fire starts on the train. The federal law is you cannot move a train that's on fire, right? So the guy's on the bridge, and he has to stop the train on the bridge. Of course, the bridge burns, and I think the train went into the river, right? If he could have just gone further down off the bridge, it would have just been the train and some tracks, right? Instead, all the oil leaked into the James River because he had to stop the train once there's a spark, right? I mean, just he was following orders, following the law. But the alternatives to the pipeline are not safe either, you know.
The alternatives to the pipeline are not necessarily good. I will agree with that. Yeah, I think there is some question about whether they are safer versus not as safe. Certainly, you're going to see trucks more inspected than pipelines are. And again, you won't necessarily get the same kind of catastrophic failure when, not if, but when there is a catastrophic failure.
What you're in Utah, Sheila, about as conservative as a state can get. Any of your friends talk about their? Did you have an opinion on this or anything on the Keystone XL? Yeah.
Would that be the same one that would have gone through Pennsylvania?
No, this is it's going from starts in Alberta, goes through Montana, South Dakota, Nebraska, and then ends at the Nebraska-Kansas border.
Okay, that's the other end. So, okay.
So it's not in your backyard. You're safe.
No, well, it might be, because I don't know. I haven't heard. But as long as it doesn't go through my backyard, I'm okay. But my uncle is in Pennsylvania, and I think he lost to the pipeline that's going to go through.
And then, of course, the obvious solution here is what Elon Musk is doing. You know, all these companies going to electric vehicles. As the battery technology improves, that's the future, and that'll be great because they're so much more efficient. Although, Alan, we've talked about this, how an electric car is far more efficient than having an internal combustion engine in every vehicle, that may waste 60 to 80% or more of the heat, of the energy through heat versus moving the vehicle. And electric is like 99% or 95% efficient. There's very little loss. So it's more efficient at the car end, but is that made up? Is that discounted when you consider that you're burning coal in a plant to generate the electricity and the inefficiencies of that? I don't know the answer to that question. Do you know?
I don't precisely know the answer to the question either, and you also need to take into account transmission loss of electricity, and you don't necessarily have the same transmission loss for other fuel sources. But I think the big deal about centralized power generation is that when done correctly, it can be done cleaner. So for example, you know, you can do it with natural gas facilities. You can do it with coal facilities that do serious scrubbing. But no matter what you do, you're shifting around where the pollution is happening. Centralized pollution is still a problem. And not to mention the pollution associated with getting the coal out of the ground. There's tremendous, you know, deferred costs on those fronts.
Okay.
You know, I've not done a rigorous comparison between the various energy sources. I haven't done that in 15 years. And honestly, I'd rather not do that again. Thank you very much.
Nuclear is by the population centers because of that issue of the loss of power over distance, right? That's why they have to stick them near population centers where it's going to be the power will be consumed.
No, they tend to stick them near population centers because population centers happen to be near water sources that are needed for cooling.
Ah, okay.
That's why most nuclear plants happen to be on major rivers or on the coast or places like that, is so that they have a very cheap source of coolant water.
And one other thing, we talk about urban legends. I had a friend of mine, some of these gas stations say,
Because we talk about urban legends all the time.
yeah, like Chrome and Android are going to become the same thing. Only last week. So this guy bought gas with no ethanol. And he said that you get more mileage from it. And it was 20 cents more a gallon, because you see these signs like we sell gas with just gasoline, no ethanol, but it's an option. And in this case, it was 20 cents more, or you could get the regular. And so I looked it up, and I said, well, that's 10% increase. Do you get 10% more mileage? If not, it's not worth it. And so I looked it up, and apparently with the newer cars, since they started doing this, a decade or more ago, whatever it was, that they're designed to be, ethanol 10% or whatever, and that they run perfectly fine, and that you won't get any mileage boost. So it's not worth. There's no advantage to getting pure gas versus 10% ethanol, considering that the pure gas is, in my case, 20 cents more a gallon. So, anything else on this? Okay, Sheila, while I check the comments, how was your week?
Yeah, my week's been good. Just nothing hair raising, really. Just have to take my mom to get her hand operated on in a couple of weeks, but other than that, no big deal. Not for me anyway, but for her, it is a big deal.
It's always frightening to go. Any kind of surgery is frightening.
Yep. Yeah, but nothing really fanfare to really brag about. So, no. Except I don't like the new Hangout thing here on Google anymore. I don't like it.
What new Hangout thing on Google?
When you want to create a video chat like we're in, you have to select certain people or a circle. You can't just invite your circles. You have to share the link to the Hangout to your circles. Kind of dumb.
Okay.
Kind of dumb. Yeah. It's stupid. Nobody hangs out anymore. You do.
Once a week, and occasionally in
Yeah.
between. And I see Cy has called me out to Jerry Ryan, who was 7 of 9. All right, awesome. Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
It was a bit on the frustrating side.
Really?
I've been telling a number of people rather bluntly how big idiots they are. And this disappoints me because I really expected better of some of the people that I've been saying this to. I'm just generally disappointed, and this isn't, this is broadly true of the level of critical thinking, the level of out-of-the-box thinking, the level of forward thinking that I'm seeing these days. So that's kind of disappointing. On the other hand, tomorrow I'm going to a hackathon in New York City, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I'm actually hoping to take part in the hackathon, not just, speak at it. So that will be something I haven't done in a very long time. So I'm really looking forward to that.
All right. And then we had Mark Barris asked, for correction, he said, Canada's the number one exporter of oil to the United States, and that is true. This is from the U.S. Energy Information Administration. These are numbers from
EIA has great numbers. I love the EIA.
From 2014, so I guess this is the most recent. 37%. Is it of our oil, of our imported oil?
I don't know which chart you're looking at. They have lots and lots of data, the EIA.
But 37% comes from Canada, 13% from Saudi Arabia, 9% from Mexico, 9% from Venezuela, and 4% from Iraq. So geography has its advantages, obviously.
Is that crude or refined oil?
Top sources and amounts per day of U.S. petroleum imports and percentage share of gross imports of petroleum. So I guess it could be gasoline or
Petroleum.
oil, right?
Now, petroleum is an incredibly broad term.
That could be propane. I mean, that's made from oil.
Right. I mean, there are quite a few petroleum products
Is
out
it
there.
cheap? But don't we refine most of it here, or is it? I mean, is it cheaper to refine
Well,
it here?
that's what I was asking. Is it imported crude that we're refining, or is it refined products that we're using? Because that's not clear.
Yeah, here it is. The U.S. imports approximately 9 million barrels per day of petroleum in 2014 from around 75 countries. Petroleum including crude oil, natural gas, plant liquids, liquefied refinery gases, refined petroleum products such as gasoline and diesel fuel, and biofuels including ethanol and biodiesel. In
We're
2014,
importing ethanol.
um,
We're importing
yeah,
ethanol. That's a good one.
yeah.
Okay.
In 2014, about 80% of gross petroleum imports were crude oil, and about 46% of the crude oil was processed in U.S. About 46% of the crude oil that was processed in the U.S. refineries was imported. So 80% is just crude oil. So it must be cheaper for us to refine it here and just import the crude. Although I would guess that like Venezuela would maybe refine it there and bring it. I don't know.
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know what Venezuela's refinery capacity is, but we certainly have a lot of refinery capacity, particularly in the Houston area.
But crude, in its obviously the name, it's in its petroleum in its crudest form, it's more flexible, right? If you have a bunch of gasoline or ethanol, the market for one or the other may be up or down. Whereas if you're selling crude, that's the most versatile product, right? You can make it into anything.
It's more complicated than that.
Okay.
You can't really make it into anything, but it's certainly a little bit more flexible. But it also means that you've got to manage the lead times on things. If you're anticipating an increase in the need for diesel, you can't just suddenly switch your crude oil production to diesel.
Okay. All right. Are you done with telling us about your week? Did I interrupt you? I can't remember.
Yes, you did, but I'm done.
Okay. My week was okay. We did the paper. We got it out on time. Yay. You can read it at, it's on my profiles. It's also at warrencountyva.com or frederickcounty.com. And we did a profile on this Asian restaurant in Front Royal. And I went there because when we do a story like that, they'll be slammed. So we went there right before the issue came out. And it was delicious. Wonderful food. Wonderful. The chef came out and said hello and talked to us. He was Indian, and the owner was from Cambodia, and she does Thai food and Cambodian food, and it's just a wonderful addition to the culinary scene in Front Royal. It's called Ben's Asian Cuisines. It's on 11th Street in the Village, the building formerly known as the Snack and Rack bar. And so I've been in there under a number of iterations of the establishment. And so anyway, good for her. So we'll see you next week. We do this program every week. Any last comments we need to hit, Alan? We do this program every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, Friday, on YouTube Live, and it's on Google Plus and Facebook, etc. So anyway, thank you all for watching, and until next time, have an awesome Google Plus week.